Coming up now on Animal Outtakes, court is in session when this four-legged guy walks in.
He's just a peaceful addition to the courtroom.
We'll introduce you to a dog who is making his rounds and why his visits are essential to keeping things calm in this courtroom. And
you are so beautiful. I have a hard time believing that you're trouble. All the good-looking ones.
how we can fight back against this invasive species. This and much more straight ahead on Animal Outtakes. It's no secret, animals have a special way about them, offering us guidance and support and love. They can really impact our lives. And there are some animals out there that are so in tune to people and their feelings, many of these become pet therapy animals.
This is Cracker, and he's a 3-year-old golden retriever, and he is a pet therapy volunteer. One of the places he comes is the 12th Judicial Circuit Court. That's hard to say. He also does hospice, a couple of libraries, and some nursing homes as well, but he's a busy boy. He was supposed to be just another pet. I have another golden retriever who's actually his great uncle, and we were just trying to get some life back into him. He's almost 12, and we got Cracker 3 years ago as a puppy from the same breeder, and he was just, just going to be the house dog. And he came to us, and he is busy and very smart, and he needed a job. And I'd had pet therapy dogs before, and kind of recognized in him that maybe he would be a perfect fit. And that's when we decided to start training him, and we started with obedience training, regular obedience training. He did his Canine Good Citizen test, and then we actually started with hospice because it's an organization near and dear to me, and they took him at just about over 1.5 years. And he started there, and then we've been with the court about a year.
Having dogs in the courtroom is an amazing gift, and we are so grateful for our volunteers, both four-legged and two-legged, that bring these guys in. We have so many dogs that come in to help us out, and Cracker is certainly one of the most exceptional ones. It's a tough courtroom. This is where we deal with a lot of kids that have been exposed to trauma. This is the courtroom where a lot of children are not in the placement with their mom and dad. They may be in a foster home, they may be with relatives, they may be with family friends, but regardless, they are not where they think probably they should be. So we have kids in the courtroom quite a bit, and it can be extremely stressful, probably a little scary. We try to make it as kid-friendly as possible, but having the dogs in the courtroom takes the stress level down in an incomprehensible way. When they walk in, when Cracker walks through the door in the back of the courtroom, everybody, from the attorneys to the court deputies to the child welfare workers, the guardian ad litems, everyone in the courtroom is like, oh, just kind of exhale. Little smile on your face. I know he puts a smile on my face when I see him come through the door. So they do an amazing job.
You can't train that innate quality that some dogs have and some dogs just don't. The basic training that he had was, he has to be able to sit and down and, not be a nuisance. And obviously the things you can't train are, he just likes to be with people. He loves to be petted. He loves to be the center of attention. He thinks this is fabulous. He's got lights, he's got cameras. Those are the things you can't train, but it takes a while, but you kind of know, and an obedience trainer would know what dogs would be suitable for this type of work. I've had a child just burst into tears when they saw him, which broke my heart, but they were missing their dog. So it runs the gamut. Children obviously are the first priority, but he also brings joy to the attorneys, the caseworkers, the social workers, the judge, the bailiffs, and anybody who's in here can get Cracker love, or whoever. There are other therapy dogs too in the program, so whichever dog is here. He just has this innate knowing that somebody needs him. He's walked into the courtroom and he's pulled me to a certain person, and typically that person will, at the end of the time that we're with them, will usually say, I don't know what it was today, but your dog just, brought me so much joy, or just made me feel a little less stressed today, or, I didn't even know I needed this dog today, but thanks. There's very, very rarely that people go, oh, no, thank you. But there are people who might be allergic or afraid of dogs, but typically, even if they're afraid of dogs, they're usually all over him because he's just a big hairy ball of fluff.
It's not just a dog. There's something about it. When people walk in, I think there's probably a little scared, maybe a little intimidated, but when you see this beautiful, furry, giant teddy bear sitting there looking at you, all of a sudden it just sort of changes. I think it changes a lot of the atmosphere in the room and brings the stress level down to something that's a little bit more manageable. I try to remember, I probably don't every time, to remind people that we have pet therapy dogs in the courtroom, and they are there they are here for everyone. Please get up, visit, sit on the floor. They can come over and visit you, move around, just a little bit of informality in a pretty tough place. And the way that the kids, the adults, grandparents, everybody react when we have a dog in the courtroom is truly amazing.
He is truly amazing. Right before we were set to meet Cracker and Sally Ann for this interview, Cracker showed even more of his talents.
Actually, it was last Monday, April 1st, and it was the worst April Fool we've ever had. I had just come back from a run and was in the kitchen making coffee, and my husband was in it. He travels a lot, but he also works from home, and he was in his office and on the phone, and I don't typically go in there, and all of a sudden Cracker comes running into the kitchen and he gives me a look, which if you're a dog person, you understand what the look is, and he just came up and looked at me, and then he ran back to the office, and I'm like, okay, and then he came back again, and it was more of an urgent look and ran again, so I'm like, I don't know what's going on, so I just followed in there and found my husband. Actually, it turned out he was in cardiac arrest. Sudden cardiac arrest. No history of any type of heart issues. He's 58 years old, sitting at his desk. And Cracker was up in the chair with him, trying to do something. We got him to 911, and the paramedics arrived, and he's fine. It was a bit of a harrowing week for all of us. Luckily, he doesn't remember any of it. But I do, yes, yeah. It's gonna take a while for me, but I have my therapy dog. And he was very useful to me that week. I mean, obviously my husband was in the hospital in ICU for a while, and there were a couple of nights where I couldn't get any sleep, but he was in the bed with me, and we always knew he was a special dog. Now he's kind of like the first responder.
You are so beautiful. It's hard to believe that something so beautiful can wreak so much havoc. Beauty can be deceiving. Coming up next.
Every dog deserves a lifelong loving home. Dante's Den provides a pristine, comfortable haven for dogs that have been abandoned or surrendered by their owners. We ensure that every pup in our Joyful Dogs adoption program receives lots of love and attention, is properly immunized, spayed or neutered, and is in good health. Prospective pet parents undergo a thorough adoption review to ensure a lifetime of love and care. Find your new furry best friend at Dante's Den. For more information, go to dantesden.org or call 844-DANTES-DEN. Dante's Den, continuing the love.
Over 90% of the seafood that is coming in to this country is raised in areas of the world that don't have the highest standards. And so our approaches are aimed for two things. One is to help feed the world. The second is to do it in an environmentally friendly and sustainable way.
Science is everywhere, and it's all around us. It's observing the world, forming questions, and the willingness to find the answers. It's something our Inspector Planet does every day, and you can too.
Hi, my name is Dr. Tracey. I'm an environmental engineer, which means that I use different scientific disciplines to protect the environment, humans, and wildlife. At Mote Marine Laboratory, I use investigation and myth-busting to answer questions. Wow, these have to be the most beautiful fish I've ever seen. They look like a lion, don't they? They are called lionfish, but of course they're not related to lions. They actually are fish. And they have a pretty bad reputation. They're taking over our Gulf and Atlantic waters. The question is there anything we can do about it? So Devin, how did lionfish get here?
So they're originally from the Indo-Pacific area, but they are now in the Atlantic. It's thought that humans introduced them either through some type of hurricane event that washed aquariums into the ocean, or that they were in somebody's tank and they wanted to get rid of them, so they just put them into the Atlantic Ocean. And now the population has just taken off.
That's insane. Oh, hi. Oh, all right. So these guys, they grow super fast, which is why they have a high survival rate from birth to adulthood. And they just apparently take over.
Yeah, and they also, the females have a high fecundity, which is the amount of eggs the females can produce.
Right.
So when you add the fecundity plus their fast growth rate, and they don't have any native predators, there's nothing that's feeding on them, their population is just going to keep growing and growing, and it's hard to control it.
So the question is, what can we do, if anything, about this species? Is this our fate?
No. The biggest answer is just to eat them. So lionfish are actually incredibly tasty. And so there's so many chefs, especially down in the Florida Keys, that are integrating them into their menu and just exploring different ways of how to cook them, and people are really enjoying it.
Tasty? I mean, I'm all about calculated risk, but these guys are venomous. They can actually sting us if we get close enough. How are we able to eat them?
Venomous, but not poisonous. So venom means that it's going to be injected into you if you think of like a snake bite. So poison is when you're ingesting. So they are venomous, but they're not poisonous, so we can ingest them and we'll be okay.
All right, I guess we need to go somewhere and get some lionfish fillet tonight. So although lionfish are venomous, that venom stays within the spine. So as soon as you remove that spine, the meat of the lionfish is actually very safe to eat. Wow, they even have a cookbook. Lionfish are an invasive and exotic species wreaking havoc on our ecosystems. But there are things that we can do. In fact, there are lionfish derbies where people actually compete to capture lionfish. And in a 3-year period, Floridians have captured over 10,000 lionfish. So remember guys, anyone could be a scientist or an engineer with some passion, hard work, and innate curiosity of how the world works.
Dr. Tracey comes up with some very interesting topics, and we know that there are some budding scientists out there watching us right now. So we thought we'd answer some of your questions.
Hi, it's Dr. Planet.
Hi, Dr. Tracey. My name is Braxton. What was the first water animal to ever go extinct?
Hey Braxton, well this can be a tough one. There are 2 animals that come to the top of my head that became extinct due to humans. The first one is the dodo bird. While he might not have been found living in the water, this species did hang out around the shores in the 1600s. The dodo bird can be found on an island in the Indian Ocean. This was a flightless bird, easy to catch. Their eggs and meat were eaten by early settlers, and the introduction of pigs and cats to their native island didn't help their species survive either. The second animal is the Steller sea cow. These big dugongs became extinct because they were hunted for fur and oil around the 1700s. Extinction due to human activities isn't something that just happened hundreds of years ago. Species are being wiped out even today. You can learn more by checking out some conservation programs at your local zoo and aquarium, or log into the U.S. Fish and Wildlife website.
Hi, Dr. Tracey. I'm Zoe. My question is, if a stingray's tail got cut off, would it grow back?
Zoe, stingrays are such unique animals. Just seeing them glide through the water so effortlessly is a beautiful sight. One thing some rays have are barbs around the base or tip of their tails, depending on the species. These barbs can be venomous if you were stung by one. If a ray ended up having to use a barb in self-defense against a predator, it may break off, and if that's the case, it would grow back. Just like stingrays you would see in some touch tanks, most in these situations have their barbs trimmed, just like you would trim your fingernails.
Hi, Dr. Tracey. My name is Mia. I wonder, how long can a dolphin stay underwater?
Hey Mia! Dolphins are such fun and playful aquatic animals. They are also quite intelligent. Some dolphins have been trained by the US Navy to help with missions. One dolphin in particular, named Tuffy, accomplished the deepest dive ever recorded, swimming down more than 990 feet. So when it comes to holding their breaths, they can definitely have you or I beat. Most dolphin species can take one breath and hold it for about 10 minutes.
Thanks, Inspector Planet!
Walking your dog without a leash? Trainer Paul is up next with some tips and tricks.
People have asked me what it'll cost to restore all the corals back to the way they remember. But I have to ask them, what will it cost if we don't do anything?
Some of the best trained dogs I have ever encountered are those working in law enforcement. So who better to teach us how to train our dogs to be like one of the best than Eros? Eros is a canine who is now retired from law enforcement, but he still is top-notch. One of the first skills he's going to show us, walking without a leash.
If you have a fenced-in yard, this is fantastic to practice this. Obviously, you know, if your dog is good and he's at the point where he's on leash and he's not pulling, he's not tugging, he's not wandering left or right. A little trick that you can do that I was taught years ago is you can cut it right here. So you just have like a foot of a leash, and you just let it hang there when you walk. So in theory, you're just walking with him off leash. Foos. Bleib. Foos. 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 Yep. Sits. Sits. So in theory, they still think that they're on the leash, even though they're not on the leash. But do it in your fenced-in yard, and just they can get the hang of it. And then you just go do distance stuff, put them in a lay down or a plots or a sits, and just walk away. Give them 15, 20 seconds, and then work on the time frame that you're separated from each other. It's a great tool. They think they're hooked up, even though they're not. But do it in a fenced-in yard. If he's obedient and good, you'll know when it's right. Just just cut it off right here and just take baby steps and go 10, 15 steps, 15, 20 steps a day, or twice a day, and cut it short. Don't keep doing it all day long. but little increment steps. And you'll be shocked at how well that little trick works. Obedience to me is the number one thing you need for, come here, Foos, is the number one thing you need for any dog. But I mean, if you're out somewhere, you obviously want the dog to listen to you, and no better way than to train in your backyard and to make sure that when you go out and introduce him in public, he's well behaved and mannered, because if there's a car coming or another dog coming, you want your dog to listen to you no matter what the situation is. And there's no better way to do that than at home. And it's easy. I mean, it just takes a little bit of time every single day, 2-3 sessions a day at 10 minutes, and you're fine. I mean, they'll get it. Shush. I know you see, Mom.
Thanks for staying with us. What are we going to talk about today, Benson? Cats? Dr. Glassman, we have to talk about litter boxes. They are a necessary, very necessary evil, and very important to the cats.
Absolutely. And I'd like to talk about today cats that don't use the litter box all the time for urinating or defecating in the box, and we call that elimination problems. And it's actually, if it's not taken care of, you can imagine urine and feces around the house people aren't thrilled with, and it's unfortunately a leading cause of euthanasia in cats if it's not dealt with properly.
Oh my.
So the most important thing for starters is the rule of thumb is to have 1 box per cat plus an extra. So if you have 2 cats, you should actually have 3 litter boxes. And they should be in different parts of the house. And I recommend unscented litter. The scent is for you, it's not for the cat, right? So if they don't like the scent, they're not going to use it.
go.
Right. So unscented litter. Clumping litters, the newer clumping ones that you get are probably preferred by most cats, but the cheap old-fashioned clay is good too, all unscented. And I want boxes in different parts of the house, because sometimes a cat might get scared in one room for some reason. A noise happens and they get afraid, or another pet in the house comes to play with them or attack them, and they get scared of that area, so there's another area they can go to.
Now, how do you keep the dogs out of the litter box?
Well,
because they love it.
Yeah, dogs find the feces kind of tasty little morsels for some reason.
Yes.
It's strange, certainly to us. But yeah, that's hard. You'd have to have maybe baby gates or little gates, doorways that only the cat can get through if you have a bigger dog. But anyway, to deal with elimination problems, you want to nip it in the bud. As soon as a cat is not urinating or defecating in the box, first off, go to your veterinarian. Make sure there's not a medical problem that could be causing it, especially if they drink more and pee more with diabetes or hyperthyroidism or kidney disease. All can make them drink and pee more, so make sure there's no medical issue. Then they should address, behavior. You have to talk about behavior, what's going on in the household. New pets, new people, stress, things like that certainly affects cats. And there are lots of techniques. There are feel away is a pheromone, a facial pheromone. When cats rub on everything, they're happy, they're relaxed. They're actually spreading a pheromone to communicate with other cats to tell them, I'm happy, I'm relaxed. You don't have to be nervous. You don't have to mark your territory, urinate or defecate to mark your territory. So pheromones, if you're lucky, sometimes can do it by spraying. They come in spray bottles, and they come in an aerosolizer, which you plug into the wall, and it aerosolizes the whole room. But a lot of cats, there's too much stress, and you have to put them on some oral anti-anxiety medications. The best one I've ever found is actually Paxil, like Prozac, Paxil, Zoloft. That category of drug are serotonin drugs. And another feline practitioner about 20 years ago told me that Paxil was the best, and I agree. Hands down, Paxil's the best drug for a cat to help them relax so they don't feel the anxiety that they have to urinate or defecate to mark their territory.
What is the daily maintenance, Dr. Glassman?
All litter boxes should be scooped every single day, if not more, 2 or 3 times a day. Some cats will have 1 urine ball or 1 spot of feces, and they won't use that box again. So cleaning it every single day is really critical.
So you give it to the cat, you might give a little to yourself.
Yeah, couldn't hide.
Okay, we thank you so much, and let's go find that litter box, Piggy. Stay with us. There's more Animal Outtakes coming up. Every dog deserves a lifelong loving home. Dante's Den provides a pristine, comfortable haven for dogs that have been abandoned or surrendered by their owners. we ensure that every pup in our Joyful Dogs adoption program receives lots of love and attention, is properly immunized, spayed or neutered, and is in good health. Prospective pet parents undergo a thorough adoption review to ensure a lifetime of love and care. Find your new furry best friend at Dante's Den. For more information, go to dantesden.org or call 844-DANTES-DEN. Dante's Den, continuing the love. Animal Outtakes is produced by Dante's Den Foundation, a nonprofit group dedicated to creating the best life for dogs. If you would like to learn more about Dante's Den, donate, or volunteer, visit our website, dantesden.org. We hope you had fun and learned a thing or two along the way. Zeus and I will be back here again next week with even more animals and some wild adventures. Until then, thanks for watching.
Another animal is the Steller sea cow. These big dogs. Okay. The second animal is a Steller sea cow. These big dugongs became extinct because he
won't bite you. He might pee on your foot, but he's not.